What's up, world?
Hey, everybody.
Hey, so we're over at my office. I'm Brian. This is
Maciek. I'm with Fathom Realty, and Brian, you're with
White Sands Realty Group, Florida, here in Sarasota. And I called Maciek yesterday because I've been watching a lot of his videos on TikTok, and we're both on most of the platforms. And he does things very differently than I do. And most of the things that he's talking about, I agree with, and some of them I don't. And he has a different audience than I do. So I asked him, especially since we're at different brokerages, but we're doing the same thing, and we've done deals together, I asked him to come over so that we can talk about real estate with you guys. So
yeah, let's do it.
So we're on Facebook.
Yeah, that's Facebook.
TikTok.
Right there.
And then over there, we're going to be on
YouTube.
On his YouTube channel, which is doing really well, right?
Yeah, it's doing well. I love doing the YouTube. Good way to educate everyone about not just what's going on locally in Sarasota, but just Florida. It's called Florida Real Estate TV. I mean, it's all about Florida's real estate, mostly residential though. I don't really dabble too much in the commercial space.
How'd you come up with the name?
ChatGPT. I had renamed it, and I asked ChatGPT to give me a whole bunch of new names.
Yeah,
that would be good. And then I really resonated with this one because it's really what I want to talk about, as opposed to the hyper local market, right? Mm-hmm. You know, Florida's experiencing things like insurance problems, right? That's like a thing that we're going through right now. The pendulum is swinging to one end, and it will swing back. But that's something that we're going through, and it's not local to us. That's all of Florida. So I kind of wanted to have a channel that really just talks all about the thing. And sometimes it's bad news, right? Sometimes I go in there and I say my point of view. So let's kind of go into it, you know?
Sure.
Maybe what have you seen in some of the videos out there that, or what would you like to discuss, you know, about our specific Florida real estate market?
Right. You know, one thing that I looked at, because I have a process, and one of the things too, so Maciek and I are the exact same age. We're both from Sarasota. I went and lived in lots of other places after high school and didn't land back here until I was 33 years old, and so that's been 10 years for me now. But Maciek, I respect him. He's a great agent. We did a deal together. It was one of the smoothest transactions, and the reason that ended up being that way, I think, is because of the level that you're on, and I want to be like him when I grow up. Yeah. So, you know. So, but you've been a licensed agent since what, 2004?
Yeah, 2004 I got licensed, and it was mostly because I was already investing for 3 years, and I wanted to, you know, capture the the commission as part of the acquisition cost, right? Which is very common, right? So if you're thinking about joining our brokerage and getting licensed and all that just to save the 3%, that is a viable option, but don't forget you're going to have a bunch of expenses just staying licensed. Also, if you have a criminal history, you're going to have to go through a board review and all this stuff. So, you know, there's more to it. If you have questions, just write a comment. We'll get to the comments in a little bit, and we'll kind of answer everything. But I've been licensed since 2004, but I've really been full-time, aggressively going after it for, I'd say, about 8 years, 9 years maybe. You know, that's really when I kind of recommitted to it and wanted to not just acquire more rentals, which I have since then, but also help people, because I feel I have a really big scope of knowledge on everything real estate, whether it's insurance, acquisition, number crunching, disposition, remodels. You know, I've done all those things. I've done flips, I've done wholesale deals, I've done long-term rentals and short-term rentals. So I think it's good for us to talk about, you know, some of these things. Yeah. We only have half an hour to an hour here to chat. So
you know what? And in the future, we might be able to like Joe Rogan this thing and go for like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, that would be great, actually.
So you just have to like and subscribe so that these venues can start paying us.
Yeah. Exactly. And really, if you're on TikTok, please just bam, just double click, a whole bunch of times. Give us some hearts. It kind of helps spread the word a little bit. And if you're on Facebook, just share it real quick. But let's get right into it, all right?
Right. Well, one thing, so we didn't really have a plan. I did take some notes, but since you're here, something I want to break this down to ridiculous. I try to, my job, I think, is to make this whole process really easy for somebody. And the way I'm able to do that is by, daily working towards my goal, which is really being a master of the bureaucracy of real estate.
Yeah.
So you said something I thought was very interesting. You got into real estate because you were already an investor and you wanted to save 3%.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So you buy a $100,000 property and you're not a licensed agent. What's the difference for you financially versus being an agent? How did that help you?
So how it helped me specifically is that I would usually come and negotiate the price down and just say, hey, I'm going to waive my commission, and I would reduce the price. Sometimes, though, I would need the remodel money. So I would say, hey, I'm an agent, I'm representing myself, pay up to 3%, and then I'd have to pay taxes on that, so I wouldn't get the full 3%, whereas the price reduction would be the full 3%, right? And I do recommend, if you have experience, you become an agent, right? But if you're brand new, you've never bought a house, you rent right now, and you're thinking about buying something, don't become an agent. You might miss some critical dates. You might default on the contract unknowingly. You might lose your escrow deposit. And that's really what you want to avoid. You just want to get to a smooth closing, right? So you do want an agent like yourself who's experienced, can guide you through the process. And as a buyer, it doesn't cost you anything. Right? It's free for you as a buyer. So that's great. That might be changing, by the way. That's maybe another topic we could discuss. But
yeah, because it's not free as a buyer, because ultimately and I'm not a lawyer or the real estate police or anything, but my understanding is that the sellers right now, they don't have to, but they negotiate giving a certain commission on a listing, but a percentage of that commission is going to go to the buyer's agent. So right now the sellers are paying the buyer's agents through the brokerages.
Yeah.
And there's some stuff about that, but I don't want to get into that because I'm not a lawyer. And
no problem.
I know that the National Association of Realtors is one of the biggest organizations in the world, I think, that has a lot of lobbyists that help make these things work out for us. I'm just a small guy over here in Sarasota trying to sell real estate, right?
Yeah.
So now one thing is I do a lot of lifestyle videos for my social media. I'm not really pitching houses very often or telling people how to buy something or what my thoughts are on the market, what my crystal ball is telling me from the things that I'm reading and the people that I'm following and the mentors that I listen to. I'm more of showing people, hey, so when you're on Siesta Key, you actually, right now I'm about, I think, 1.5 miles from the Key in my office here, and right underneath me is a place called La Bodega. So if you're looking for authentic Mexican food, La Bodega, it's a Mexican market, and they also make tacos and all kinds of different stuff. I get tacos all the time. They're like $11. Have you ever tried them?
No, I haven't. But if in case you guys don't know where his office is at that three-way intersection of Stickney Point, Clark, and Swift, which turns into Tuttle on the northern end of it. So that little three-way intersection, it's like a 2-story building right next to some medical offices, dental office.
Yeah, it's a big dental office
Yeah.
next to us, and right across from us is everybody's favorite, Detweiler's.
That's right.
I'll do a video there telling people about that place one day too. So, but you're getting into more of the nuts and bolts of real estate in your videos, maybe a little bit more informative. With me, I'm just showing people the area. I feel I have a pretty good grasp on what I do, and there's a process that I go through. I'm a full-time agent. This is all I do. If I don't sell properties, I don't eat. I don't have any other streams of income. And the reason I do this is, and I think it's kind of the reason that we get along, I'm here to help people.
That's right.
Period.
That's right.
Like this is, I've been in some different forms of sales. I worked in the finance industry, and I'm not sure how much I was helping people as far, I was in some of the products that I sold, but when the company I worked for raised the standard to where you needed to sell this much, I was like, now I'm selling them things that I don't really believe that they need, and I'm hired in this advisory role to help people make good buying decisions. And with the numbers that you're requiring from me to make a good living in this job, it didn't really match up with my morals and ethics.
And that's what's great about real estate.
Right.
You set your limits. You're the one that says my family should be living at this level, at that level, or at this level, right? So your direct input will lead to the output, whatever you want to put in. And it seems like you have a pretty comfortable life, right? You're not like worth $100 million, but you in your videos show that Sarasota has a lot to offer, and you take advantage of it.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You're out there.
I'm living really good.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Or really well, whatever I'd have to ask ChatGPT what the right English structure is on that. And I am because I'm a single dad. I co-parent with my son's mother. We have a great relationship with that, and that's going really well. But I need to have the time with him because I'm a co-parent. And it's great. I live off of my calendar. I'm able to schedule my showings, my open houses, my consultations, all these things. And as long as I use my calendar, I could still watch my son, pick him up from whatever needs to be done, or just go and have quality time. One of the things too, and the reason I had this office, is because I'm less than 2 miles from the beach. And if I don't have to be home until 6, if I want to go to the beach, I'm going to go, and I think that going to the beach is really healthy. It's a good thing for you, and it's a shame that I've sold houses to so many people who have told me, I'm like, well, what do you want to do when you live here? And they're like, go to the beach. And I'm like, cool. How often do you see yourself going? Well, 6-7 times a week. And I'm like, okay.
Okay, yeah, I don't know about that.
That's a pretty tall order. And then I meet them 2 years later. I'm like, so when's the last time you went to the beach? And they're like, oh, last April for, when Bob's parents were here. And I'm like, wow, you're really missing the lifestyle here.
Exactly. Like a lot
I'm
of
paying
people,
a premium. It's expensive to live here.
That's right. That's right. Actually, let's get into that in a second. But I will say one thing about exactly what you said is that as an agent, we pick our schedules. And one thing that I do very often is I say, I'm either going to go to the gym or I'm going to go to the beach. Now, it's about, 60% gym, 30% beach. And that's almost every single day. Right? There's a couple, there's rainy days too, right? Where it's like required to go to the gym. And then there's super nice sunny days where it's definitely a beach day, right? But I don't go with the whole thing, with the whole cooler, the umbrella, the this, the that. I just go because it's after work. Many times I just go by myself. It's a family thing. It's going to be hours. Well, this is just 30 minutes. Take a dip in the water, chill out a little bit, let the mind relax. And I think a lot of my past clients are also kind of missing out on that. I don't know anyone who really does that as a regular, except for you, as a regular thing. Like that is a normal thing for me. And sometimes it's just a walk. Although, I'm not a big beach walker, but sometimes I do that. Sometimes I go to the parts that are super secluded, like Longboat Key. If you don't know, Longboat Key is 7.5 miles long. And there's probably about 12 beach access points. No one knows where the parking is, so go check out my YouTube video on all the Longboat Key parking spots. There are so many, no one even knows about this. But the best part about it, it's like empty. Yeah. Unless you're going to the very, very northern tip of Longboat Key, all the other ones are dead. And I love that because I don't want to be hearing some, teenagers bumping music and all that. I'm trying to connect with nature, right?
Sure.
And sometimes people are a little obnoxious on the big beaches like Siesta Key during season, right?
Sure.
It gets like you're not relaxing, okay? You're having fun. You're having a great time. The water's beautiful, but I could skip it.
I get that. And me personally, I like Siesta. I like beach access number 4. There's only a couple parking spaces. However, I'm lucky, and something I recommend to everybody. Listen, everybody that I meet them because they found me somewhere, and they already took a vacation to Siesta Key because they don't take a vacation though Parish,
right?
And that's in our market. Parish is great. I just sold a house there.
The new Lakewood Ranch.
Starter home for young family, married couple, and they got a lot of house for the money. I'm going to tell you right now, for $200,000 less than what my house is worth, they got twice the house that I have. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So let's kind of transition a little bit into the market, right? So you made a really good point. A lot of people are saying, hey, is it affordable? Because with 7.5% interest rates, 8% interest rates if you're not A+ credit, it's expensive, okay? And prices have not fallen as much as people have expected them to fall with this kind of interest rate increase. Now, will they fall? What do you think?
Well, that's a trick question.
Yeah, there's a couple answers to that, right?
And the
well,
reason
give me one or two scenarios.
So okay, so like I'm watching Siesta Key quite closely. It's where I want to be. Period. Yeah. It's where I want to live. I had an opportunity to buy a condo there a few years ago. Ended up getting married, changing some plans, getting divorced, all that kind of stuff. So I didn't get that place, but that's where I want to be. That's the
same here, man.
Right.
I'm going to be on Siesta Key.
Period, man. Yeah. It's the best.
That's right.
So I'm watching condos, and I haven't pulled the numbers in maybe 2 or 3 weeks, but the last time I checked, condos on Siesta Key were still a really strong seller's market.
Yep.
Just over, I think, a little bit 3 months of inventory. And the average price was quite high. It was about 1.1 million, I think. That's from the market stats that are provided to us by our board.
Yeah.
When I looked at houses, though, at 34242, which is the zip code,
yep.
I think we were over 9 months supply of inventory with an average price of 1.7 million. And I mean, it's supply and demand.
And that's a buyer's market,
right?
Over 6 months, over 5.5, 6 months, that's going to be a buyer's market.
I completely agree. And and what that means, because I like to break things down to ridiculous. If we have over 9 months supply of inventory for a particular segmented market, that means if we didn't take one more listing, it would take us 9 months to sell all the ones that are currently on the market, and we are getting more listings right now.
That's right. Slowly, very slowly. But that is basically the luxury market, right? Single family homes on Siesta Key. That's the luxury market because, we just had one yesterday pop up for under $1 million, right?
Nice.
Very rare to see a home under $1 million on Siesta. And it wasn't trashed or anything. It was a nice house, but it wasn't on a canal or anything. And the thing is, with the luxury price point, so anything over, $750, $800, that's kind of considered luxury in our market. It used to just be $500 3 years back, right? That ends up being less clients for that. Right? That's especially when interest rates are high. But the thing is that a lot of people won't take those jumbo loans. Right? A lot of them are cash buyers, a lot of them are foreigners, and now we have restrictions on some countries being foreign buyers, right? So there's a little bit less demand, and generally speaking, it seems like there's an inflation situation around the whole world, not just the U.S. So some people are just putting a little bit of the brakes on, especially in the luxury market. Does that mean that nothing's selling? Absolutely not. Things are selling all the time. I still see multiple offer scenarios. I still see appraisal contingency waivers. I don't see 0-day inspections, but I do see a lot of stuff. And
0-day inspection is not advisable. But it's your house. You can do what you want.
Yeah, right. But let me ask you: have you seen any short sales or foreclosures?
No.
Because I'm getting those questions. Where are the short sales? Where are the foreclosures? Do you see them?
Right. So what I think what I think is based on lots and lots of information that I'm sucking in from all these different sources, and I don't have them written all down here. They're up in here. Is there are people who are going to be in financial trouble here very soon. And speaking of the rates being high, I have many friends. One of them's in the office today that are in the mortgage industry. And I think if I were a mortgage person, right now I feel bad for them.
Yeah.
Because I could still sell houses to people who are paying cash money.
Yep.
And
they don't have any refinancing.
They got nothing.
All they have going on is DSCR loans,
so
right?
Cash is king, right? Now, you just said it. What I think the opportunity is for mortgage people are the DSCR loans, which we could talk about, and also first-time home buyers. Like me, I'm out of the market right now. Period.
Yeah.
I bought my house for a little under $300,000. It's worth, say, $500,000-$600,000. If I were to sell it right now, take all of the equity and buy something for the same price that I sold it for, let's say $600,000.
Yep.
My payment still be double.
I was just going to say that. That's exactly my scenario too.
Right.
I actually did the number crunching on it, and that's actually not paying any taxes on the sale because it's a primary residency.
Right.
I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving you any legal advice. Go consult your attorney. That's my legal disclaimer.
Yeah, attorneys, accountants, CPAs, all those people.
Yeah, but if you live there in the last, for 24 months out of the last 60 months, the IRS gives you an exemption up to $250,000 of profit if you're single, right? That is not taxable, right? check with your attorney, like I said. But even with that taken into account, your payments still double, and you reset your homestead exemption, which no one wants to do that. The only little benefit you might have is that you might get a new house, a brand new construction, and your insurance will actually go down. Because my house is from like 86 or something like that. And that insurance, you know, that year construction, it's not like new construction. New construction has all the latest building codes. This is something that you should consider. Let me just segue for a quick second here.
Yeah.
You know, new construction is something that you should really, really consider. The bad news is that you're paying full price for new construction. However, actually, if you check my TikTok, which is called Sarasota for Sale, I just did a video on the chart showing the prices of new construction, the median price of new construction versus the median price of existing construction, just older construction. And that price is about to cross, because you know, new construction is full price. There's no discounts on that stuff, right? Not as a regular buyer, maybe if you're a hedge fund buying the whole neighborhood, but there's no discount. And right now, the new construction is lowering in price, and the resales are staying where they're at, and they're about to cross. They haven't crossed yet. And the last time that happened was in 1995. That's a long time. That's probably not gonna stay there, right? But new construction is currently 30% of the Florida real estate market. Like 1/3 of all sales is new construction. And when you say, I wonder why that is, it's because people aren't giving up their 3%, 4% interest rates, so they're not listing.
Bingo.
Right? And second is your insurance rate is gonna be, I don't know, maybe 1/3 of what it would be on an older construction house, especially if you're talking about, you know, mid-century modern 1950s houses with cloth wiring, big problem, flat roof, big problem, some sort of extension on their carport turned into, you know, third bedroom type of situation. So if you want to get more information on what should you be looking at, because it's one thing to look at photos, it's another thing to look at reality of what that means for you on a, you know, money basis. Call us, reach out to us, make a comment. We'll do a little reply on your comment, specifically addressing your question, especially on TikTok there.
Sure.
So, you know,
sure.
New construction is a great way to go, but you're not going to get those short sales, foreclosures, or just desperate sellers.
Right. Well, now, and the fun, you know, so I have all kinds of thoughts about new construction, and I've recently sold new construction with two of the nation's largest track builders. That's what they're called. Mm-hmm. They're building on a track, and they were interesting experiences. I can't say that they were amazing. I will say though, with the first one, and it was around $1 million for that house, the builder was offering $50,000 or $60,000 credit as long as you use their title company and their lender. And I told the representative for the builder, who is a W-2 employee, I verified that with him. And I mentioned that because when you're working with me or Maciek, we work for you.
That's right.
These people at the builders, and we love them, they're great. They are the experts in their models in their neighborhood, and they know all kinds of things that I'm not going to learn because I just don't need to. And I don't know about you, you might.
I like to learn.
I like to learn stuff too. I don't need the nuts and bolts of, you know, this system that's supposed to make the house more energy efficient, but also doesn't allow my cell phone to work.
Yeah, right. That happens.
So, but those people ultimately, they get paid by the builder. They do not work for you. So I'm with there helping my friend purchase this home, and I'm like, hey, he's not going to be able to use your builder's financing, but we still want the credit. And the reason that we couldn't use the builder financing is because he had a unique financial situation. And not everything is, you know, black and white. It's, you know, sometimes there's some things in the middle that it's not your cookie cutter sort of situation.
Probably had to use some sort of portfolio loan program with like bank statements only or whatever
Something
it is,
like
right?
that, right? I don't get into people's finances.
That's fine.
Their business, but it was unique.
Did you get the credit?
We did. We did.
And in a market like this,
yeah,
you have a chance of getting the credit. I can't guarantee you'll get it because sometimes they do have 4 buyers for that one house.
Right.
But a lot of times they don't, right? Not in this market.
But that's the tricky thing too. And this is one of the things where as being an agent, working in, I've been an agent I think for 5 or 6 years. I've been full-time for 4 years. And you know, you don't really know how much some of these new houses are selling for, because they're not always in the multiple listing service as a listing.
That's right.
And you only see the price that the tax appraiser shows the following year as the sale price.
That's right.
But you don't know if they gave $100,000 in credits.
That's right. And this is so I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's something I kind of forgot about. But this is a technique that the new construction builders use in a declining market or in a stagnant market, right? I kind of feel like we're in a stagnant market. We're not really declining. And what they do is, let's just say they've sold, 50% of the development, and they have all these people living there in like phase 1 and 2. And now they're building out phase 3, and 2024 will be phase 4. Well, in order not to piss off all those people and have all those people show up at their showroom saying, don't buy in here, they're lowering the price, don't buy in here, they're whatever. What they do is they offer credits. They keep the price high, which is all that shows up on recent sales when you look it up in the property appraiser's website or on Zillow or wherever you go. So they keep the price high, but then credit goes from 10,000, which is standard in a good market, to 25,000. And I recently saw 35,000 at Sky Ranch off of Clark Road, and now you're saying 60,000. Holy cow!
Yeah.
Now, what percentage of the price was that? Was that 10%? Or was that 7%?
I think the house sold for $923 was the sale price.
So like 6, 7, 8%.
We got
whatever.
I think 57 or 58,000. It was somewhere right around there. I don't think they could use the whole thing. They had to do their number crunch. These number people. So
yeah, exactly. Let them do their thing.
Yeah. So I mean, with you telling me that, and I've read about where we're about to cross. To get back to your question, sure, I think that the new home sales are absolutely going to determine how much resales go for. Now, something I disagree with a little bit is older house. I love older houses. I like older houses. I like character. I like streets that you can put more than, just have a lot of these new neighborhoods you go in. If somebody's parked on the right side and somebody's parked on the left side, only one car could get through the middle. Yeah. Because in these new developments, the roads are so small, these builders are so greedy, and they use every inch of real estate, or centimeter for you. And
I'm at inch at this point.
and I don't like it. I don't care for it. Do I like the house? Yeah, the house is cool. Is the neighborhood cool? Yeah, there's all these amenities. There's I've seen everything. My neighborhood in particular isn't that old. It was built in like 05, 06. We have a full court basketball. We have a resort style swimming pool. We have beach volleyball. We have tennis. We have pickleball. We have inline skating. We have softball field, baseball field, soccer field. No dog park for whatever reason. I'm not sure why. So I like that I have all those things. Do I really want to live in my neighborhood? No, man. I want to live on Siesta Key.
Yeah, that's right.
and I don't really. I want to buy that house that you just told me about for under $1 million that I could live in.
Right.
And one of the reasons we say that, like, I know somebody right now who just took a listing for like 3.1 or 3.2 million. It's a teardown on the water. Somebody's going to buy something.
Where, on Siesta?
I don't know, man.
No, not
somewhere
Siesta.
Over there.
That sounds like Manatee.
It's not. I heard about it through the grapevine, and the guy was calling me, asking me about how to do a broker's open and stuff like that. Because if you know me, I do lots of events and parties and things like that. And he was telling me it's a $3 million teardown, and I'm like, huh. So I did work with a contractor in the past, and we usually wanted our land cost to be about 25% of the total project. So 3 times 4 is 12.
Yeah.
So they're building at least a property that's going to have a price tag of probably more than $12 million.
Yeah. And that's interesting, right? I mean, that is a thing. If you do a search in our local market, we have some properties that are getting into that very high exclusive luxury market. 3-4 years ago, I don't remember seeing any, or maybe just a couple $10 million properties. I saw a couple $20 million properties on Longboat that were, 13,000 square feet on the beach on Longboat. Like that's what it was, right?
Right.
And there was some of that, but we're getting more over $10 million, even on Casey Key and Minnesota Key. Minnesota Key is like the best price key, by the way. If you want to live like walking distance to the beach.
You say Minnesota?
Yeah, Minnesota Key. That's right by Inglewood.
What's up with the road though?
You mean like what, to get onto?
No. So this last hurricane, which I
yeah.
left for, because I leave for all hurricanes, because I'm opportunistic when it comes to vacations.
Yeah.
And I only take vacations when there's hurricanes. I'm not
plan.
showing houses. I'm not meeting with people to list houses. I leave.
Yeah.
And I don't want to wait and see what happens. That's why I have insurance, right?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
so but I saw Adelia. Is that what it was?
No. I think the road you're talking about. You might be talking about the bridge, which
No.
is by Placida.
This hurricane that just happened.
Yeah. Okay. This one. I thought you were talking about Ian.
Yeah, it's like Minnesota Beach Road, the one that goes from Minnesota Key to Inglewood Beach.
Okay.
Like part of it went underwater and completely fell apart, and it's like gone.
Interesting. I didn't see that.
Yeah,
But
man.
One thing I do know is that
That's
due
the
to
bomb. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm in on that.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you guys, if that road is fixed and you could go down it, I think it's probably the best 10 or 15-minute drive in Florida.
Yeah, I love that area.
Yeah.
And also if you've never driven on Casey Key, take a drive from the North Bridge to the South Bridge, right? Don't go into past the north, because then it becomes like an exclusive neighborhood, and the road gets just more narrow and narrow and narrow, and literally you can't turn around.
Yeah.
There's no places to turn around eventually, right? But
you'd have to turn around at like Stephen King's house or something. That sounds scary.
You can't get there. I actually tried to get there because he's the first house.
Okay.
He's like right where Midnight Pass used to be back in the day. I don't know if you know about that, but that's like 1996 style. That first house, which you can see if you go kayak in those. If you go to Turtle Beach and you start kayaking just a little south, you can see his house basically, which looks like a giant rectangle. But either way. If you take that drive on Casey Key and then you take the drive on Minnesota Key, it is so beautiful there. Like there's, a lot of people are like Sarasota, not realizing that Inglewood is a really good option too. Now, it has that old town feel. The feel that I used to have 20 years ago.
It's Sarasota in the 80s.
It's Sarasota, or for me it would be like the early 2000s. Sarasota early 2000s.
Yeah.
They don't have these high rises. They don't have. There's some like beachfront condos that might be 3-4 stories, sure, but there's nothing like Siesta Key.
Right.
Siesta Key has no land left. Right? There's a couple lots. That's it. So you have to tear down, right? You have to buy that $3 million tear down.
Yeah, I had somebody call me and they're like, "Hey, I got $70,000 to buy a lot." And I was like, "Cool."
Great.
And
Your town.
they're like on Siesta, and I'm like, "You might be able to buy like one of those things like that's in the middle of the road with like a little grass on it and like a sign."
Yeah, exactly. I actually saw something like that was beachfront, and it was 400 square feet.
Nice.
And I'm like, well, okay, maybe that's like a $50,000 spent, maybe not.
Yeah, I'd buy it.
Yeah, but if you're like you want to live on the beach, you want to live on Siesta. I want to live on Siesta. I don't have to be on the beach, but preferred to be on the beach. But you don't have the budget for a Siesta, or you don't want to have the high condo fees and you just want a house of your own, you can get things for $1 to $2 million. $2 million on the beach, $1 million on the bay, right? This Inglewood has a lot of really good options, and it's for now, old town feel.
Right, for now. And I'll tell you, I love the area you're talking about so much that I would live there. The only reason I don't live there, and I have evidence to back what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I noticed he's got a Lexus. I got a Camry. So I bought my Camry with 3 miles on it 3 years ago.
Wow.
I'm at 106,000 miles.
Wow.
And the problem with Inglewood for me, with being the commuter that I am, is that it's so far from the highway. I think it's like maybe 20 or 25 minutes. There's no easy way to go from Inglewood to Siesta Key or to Longboat Key, because like you said, all these people, you kind of said it, and I had mentioned it before as well, the people don't come here because they decided to take a vacation to Parrish. They come here because they decided to take a vacation to Siesta. And if you're like me, every time I go somewhere on vacation, I'm sitting there going, wow, this place is super cool. How do I buy something here? Right?
Yeah.
So I meet people whose search started at Siesta, and then they reach out to me through whatever avenue it is. I find out what they want. Maybe they want a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2-car garage, or blah, 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 blah. and their budget's 700 grand. They're like, can we live in the Key? And I'm like, no.
No.
No, no. But we have tons of other places.
You get a 2-bedroom, 1-bath condo, not on the beach.
Right. So, but the other thing is, you know, you could probably buy a house in Gulfgate or Gulfgate, actually,
Yeah.
the neighborhood I grew up in, Gulfgate East.
Okay.
700 grand,
Yeah.
wide roads.
Yeah, that's right. I
Right.
just sold a house there on Kingston. Awesome.
I lived on Easton.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
you know,
that is a really nice neighborhood. And they have
how big
like
are
a
the
little-
roads?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, man.
You can park trailers, like lawn trailers, and still have 2 cars go by.
Right.
And it's like nice windy roads. Some lots back up to the church there that are so deep and so long. So there's, you know, like you said, new construction doesn't do that.
Right. And in
they
those
chop it up.
houses, when they have new wiring, when they have new plumbing, when they have like a new roof, and I think I've even seen some metal roofs in there, they're not paying a lot for insurance.
They are.
No, they're not.
Here's the. We should have an insurance guy.
We
one
need an
time on our
insurance person.
Yeah, on this podcast, because here's what happens. The first thing is all the carriers. There's about 20 carriers left, right? We had 14 leave the state in the last couple of years.
We've had a couple new ones come in though.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And you know, there's a few that I've never even heard of, like Slide. I just learned about recently, who are, you know, jacking up everyone's rates. But what I'm saying here about the older construction that has all the upgrades, does that mean you're going to be stuck with Citizens? No. But does it mean you're going to have the same cost as a new construction or anywhere close to it? No. And the reason is that the biggest part of the qualifying component. So first there's qualifying, then there's discounts, right? Wind mitigation report is the discounts, but the qualifying, the first phase, is what year was it built in? Okay, right away, 20 years or older, out the door on half of them, right? Then you go into, all right, now let's talk about how many stories it is and what flood zone it's in, and what this, the 4-point inspection, what those components are. And then the wind mitigation report, let's just say you did a metal roof with peel and stick underlayment, you added the third nail to your truss to wall connection, which if you don't know about that, learn about that. It'll save you a lot of money. And you did the secondary water barrier and secondary water resistance. You just did everything you can for discounts. Hurricane shutters, like the whole shebang, right? You're still going to pay 50 to 100% more.
Sure,
new construction.
it's more, but it's not that much.
Yeah, it's not going to go
So,
from like
you know,
2,000 to 10,000.
Right, and like, at least for me, listen, man, I don't care about money. I know I could always make money, and I buy things that I want that I know I can afford. You know, and I got a house. It's $1.5 million, built in 1962. I don't know what the new insurance price is going to be for the new buyer, but the current owners, and they've only been in it a couple years, they're only paying like I think $6,700 or $6,800 a year. That's with a little flood rider too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you're less than 10 grand on a house built in '62 that's worth over $1 million. I don't think that's crazy, especially when most of my customers are coming from like Illinois or New York or now California. Hi, California people. You guys are welcome here. I like you. I like your vibe. We have cool architecture that you can appreciate, and I like you guys. So, and I also know that those people's, just the difference in taxes, this insurance cost is nothing.
That's
you know,
true.
I mean, I'm looking at people who have $700,000, $900,000 houses in Illinois paying like $30,000 a year taxes, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
so
the
Florida-
$1.5 million one I got, taxes
Yeah.
are less than 10 grand, man.
Yeah, and you know, if they only bought it 2 years ago, great. You know, one thing that I will say, which I always try to guide my clients with, the expectation setting, right? You always want to have expectations set properly so that there is no regret, so that they make the decision that's right for them. And one of those expectations is two things that you touched on. One is, what is the reassessed homestead going to cost, like your taxes, with your homestead exemption, not that guy's,
Right.
not the seller's.
Because you're about 80% of the sale price, I think, is
Right.
around the formula
Exactly.
they use.
And you can easily just like actually highlight the whole tax bill and put it into an Excel spreadsheet, put in the new price, give the discount of $50,000 or $25,000 depending on what the discount is. Plus, if you're a veteran, if you're a disabled vet, if you're a widow, there's extra discounts and so on. And then see approximately, pretty close though, within 10%, what will that tax bill be for you?
Yeah,
right?
I'm with you. I don't like surprises either.
Yeah, exactly. No one does. We
Yeah.
all like.
I think that's why we both have really
clear.
good reviews, though.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
this
That's
thing,
right.
the whole thing with the agent is, I have 4 rules for my business. I don't know what your 4 rules
Okay.
are. Mine are legal, ethical, moral, and we got to like each other. And for me, like is just trust. It doesn't mean we need to go out and hang out, and I don't ever need to see you again. But during this process, we have to trust each other. Otherwise, there's no reason to me being here. And then, you know, really, I'm not a one size fits all.
Mm-hmm.
I don't work as I guess I don't fit for everybody. That's not
That's
a
how
thing.
it goes. Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
And what I found by doing that is it's better for the customer. It's not even that it's better for me. It's better for the customer. They can go, maybe they'll meet him. He's cool, right? So, and they'll like you. And then you can get that 5-star review and have that relationship forever.
Yeah.
With me, you know, if we don't trust each other, I mean, people do bring up legal, ethical, and moral things. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm out. This is the only way I make money. My license depends on me
That's
being
right.
legal, ethical, and moral. So I'm not going to bend on any of that stuff.
That's right. And I think, you know, you attract what you are. Right?
Sure.
So when it comes to your clientele, we get to choose. We get to pick and choose who exactly we're going to work with, which is great. I have fired clients before. I have fired people who have been racist and told me not to bring in specific races into their open house. I'm sorry. I don't know what year you're living in, that is not acceptable, okay? No matter what, but especially nowadays, right? I have fired clients, but really my rule is only one. And I got it from some of the rules that when I used to be at Keller Williams. Win, win, or no deal. That's
Right.
it. You have to win. We have to win. Like this whole process, the seller has to be okay. You have to be okay, or no deal. Now, does that mean that I'm not going to fight for you? No, you're my principal, and I will do exactly what you want me to do. I'll lay out the easy option, the we might get this option, and the let's bring out all guns blazing option. We probably won't get it, but we might. You never know, right? So I'll give those options. You tell me what to execute, and then I fight for you. That's
See,
how it is,
we're doing
right?
the same thing here, man. Because I make a really strong point of I'm never going to tell you what to do. Not going to happen.
Never.
I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's not my job.
I'm not the one buying it.
Yeah, I'm a transactional agent, and my job, again, with navigating this bureaucracy of real estate, is to give you your options, and then it's up to you. And most of the time, what happens is, maybe it's the same with you, is my customer is like, well, we only have this way or this way to go. What do you think? And I go, what about this way or this way? And they're like, oh, I didn't think about that. That's where the value comes in.
Yeah.
You know, knowing
right.
knowing the area, knowing the market, knowing a bit about construction, having really great inspectors and things like that
Yeah.
can help you learn more about that
Your
stuff
team
when we
is
get to
important.
that point.
Yeah.
Having great lenders, blah 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 blah. You know, that's what makes this thing work like clockwork, really. And I appreciate clockwork. I like
Yeah.
watches.
Well,
So-
you know what? Let's actually go a little bit into the lender component of it, right? One thing that we see as agents is people have their own lender. It might be their brother. It might be, you know, their nephew that just got licensed or something. How do you feel when someone says, hey, I got my own pre-approval,
Yeah.
you know, and then you see like guaranteed rate or like Rocket Mortgage or something like that. How do you feel, and how does the transaction, you know, go when you see that?
So for me, and this is the great thing about business, I don't really have a whole lot of emotions in it. I might get some at the end product. You know, I like the high fives and people saying, wow, what a great job. And I don't think that we have win-wins. I think it depends how many people are in the transaction. If there's 2 agents and there's a buyer and a seller, we're looking for 4 wins, right? The listing agent's going to win because that person was able to perform in their job. They were hired to sell the house, and they sold the house.
Yep.
I win because I'm the buyer's agent. I do work on commission. I get paid. That's a win. The buyer wins because they were able to buy what they want for a price that they were willing to pay. The seller wins because they sold their house at a price they were willing to sell for.
Yeah.
So we got 4 wins there.
But then the lender component.
As far as the lender goes, it's not my feelings, it's my experience. So
I like that.
when I get, especially as the listing agent, whenever I get an offer, I'm like, so where's the proof of funds? Or where is the pre-approval letter? I don't even want to look at a pre-qualification letter. Those are garbage. That means that the finance person put in the social security number, ran the credit, and said, oh, they're an 800, and they said they make 250,000, so they're good. The pre-approval is much more. Jason, tell me about a pre-approval. This Jason, he's kind of famous.
Really,
He happens to be a lender, and he was here. We're working on some other stuff. Difference between a pre-approval and a pre-qualification?
Pre-qualification, we base our approval based on the information you gave us. Pre-approval is the information we see, and we run underwriting as well to make sure you're approved. Because
so you have evidence, pay stubs, bank statements, jobs, things like that.
And is that basically DU underwriting?
Yes.
Okay, so this is an automated system, almost always, sometimes it's manual, but it's an automated system that once you have all the evidence, you put in all the data, and it spits out green light, red light, and maybe yellow light, right?
Correct.
Okay.
But we can even go one step further, which sometimes in a competitive market, we did this a lot post-COVID, was we actually sent it to actual underwriting, a live underwriter, not automated, and you were approved conditional of the property.
Yeah, so this is a fully underwritten pre-approval letter.
So,
Correct.
and that's where I'm going to. That's what I'm looking for.
That's
right. Now you mentioned a couple of the big like internet companies. And that one, it depends. And the reason I say it depends is, so if you're putting in an online application with some company and then they spit you out even a pre-approval, you submitted docs or whatever, I'm still not too crazy about it. However, I have met some brokers in town who do use Rocket Mortgage, and they use them all the time. And there's also some agents who are signed up. I think they get leads from those companies.
Yeah.
And so I'm asking the agent. I'm like, because maybe it's you. And I'm like, why do I have a Rocket Mortgage thing? You're like, that's where my customer went. I'm like, okay. I'm like, did they go directly to them, or is there a broker? No, it's actually a broker. I work with him all the time. We do these. They had this 1% down thing. I've been able to do 10 of them already this year. I'm like, okay. So then I'm calling the lender. Hopefully there's an actual person I could speak to.
Yeah.
And even better when they call me. That's how we met. We did a deal together. This guy over here, he was the lender for the buyer, and he called me right when we went under contract to tell me about his file and give me information that I was able to pass on to my seller that made them really happy, and then they signed off on it.
Yeah, you know, the way I see it, I agree, it's not a feeling thing. It's let me see the evidence. Let me see who this person is. And now if it's a Rocket Mortgage or whoever it is, just some lender that I don't know, I'm going to call that lender and I'm going to drill them down, because what I'm looking for is what Jason just talked about, the fully underwritten pre-approval, which frankly, people, you know, maybe 5-10% of all lenders actually do this. They'll do the DU underwriting pre-approval.
That's the automated process.
Yeah, that's the automated. That's easy, right?
Can I interject?
Yes.
Yeah, please.
So it all depends on the client and the deal. So we can identify right from the beginning whether it's going to be the clean deal or a hairy deal or no deal. So if it's going to be hairy or no, you have to do a lot more digging. If it's no, it's out the door. But if it's a hairy deal, when I say hairy, meaning that, well, if the wind blows this way, no. So the best commodity that we have as commissions people is time. So we want to do as much work up front to save as much time later on. And it is so important that, honestly, if someone's a W-2 employee, makes $300,000 a year, they're borrowing $200,000, I don't think I need to send it out for the underwriter but if the ratios are over 40 and there's some things that might be in question, I think it's very important to have that done.
Yeah, I do agree. You know, that manual look over is very important. If you want to unplug my thing and plug
you're
yours
good.
in, that's fine.
Yeah, we're
You're
fine.
gonna die.
Eventually, not anytime soon.
Yeah, so you know, but I really like to see the fully underwritten pre-approval letter, which is really rare to see. But I do agree with Jason. The hairy ones, you know, this is part of the business that doesn't make me warm and fuzzy inside. Is when you have a client that is, you know, has a hairy deal. Okay, they got something on their credit report that might need to be fixed, and we need to do a credit rescore, or the ratios are really, really high and they're pushing the limits, and then that person starts really shopping the rate around.
Right. That's the best, right?
Whether it's my lender or whether it's your lender, like the client's lender, is less relevant. What I don't like is that someone, a human, is doing all this work to get the job done, and then you're going to beat them up at the end.
Well, and the funny thing about that, I'm sure Jason would agree with
You've
me,
heard me complain
is
enough,
is very often they might end up getting a better rate, but then there's fees.
That's right. So how do you actually compare apples to apples?
Right. So, you know, if somebody's shopping the lender and I go, yeah, you know, I believe in capitalism, you know, so go ahead, shop the lender, but get 3 different loan comparisons and scenarios and let's look at them.
And the answer I was looking for is get an LE from 3 people.
Locked.
A locked LE, exactly. Because what I've seen, just recently I saw this, and it was interesting because what we know as professionals in this business all day long is different than what a client knows, which buys a house once every 4 or 5 years, right?
Yeah.
And what I saw was that on a certain date, there was an approval and a interest rate associated with that day. And then a week later, the rates happen to drop. And another lender was able to come in lower. So now, you know, as a client, just common sense, he says, oh, wow, well, this lender is a little cheaper. I think I might go with that guy, right? Same product, conventional loan, whatever it is, right? But why don't you go and requote it with the first guy?
Right.
Because the rates dropped nationally, not like for that guy, okay? The underwriting guidelines are the same. No one can bend the rules on that stuff, right? Even if you're the president of Fannie Mae, you can't change the rules for your own loan, okay? But what is negotiable out there is the profit margin, right? But what's not the apples to apples is the person that you're not going to get apples to apples. The person that does that work, the knowledge that Jason has from his years of experience on a hairy deal, you know, I just find have loyalty to the person that basically paved the whole road for you.
Answered your calls on a Sunday at 10 o'clock for an updated video, the finest and latest, and you gave it to them, and then 2 weeks later, after they're live, like, now we're going to start the shopping purpose.
Yeah, and you know, and that is part of the business, right?
Yeah.
And that's a part that we don't like, you know. But and I understand. I believe in capitalism too. I like to shop, you know, and get the best deal I can.
Sure, but I'm also
whatever
very
I'm buying.
loyal, right?
Be upfront
That's right.
about it too, because realistically, we all fish from the same pond. If it's the same day, same time of day you're getting a quote, we're all going to be an eighth of a point from one another. And I always tell people that. You call me today at 10 o'clock and the market's booming, we're great. If you call me at 4 o'clock, it'll be worse. But just be upfront. If you're going to shop, be upfront. And then honestly, maybe at Saturday at 10 o'clock, I'm not going to stop spending my family time with you, and maybe you don't deserve that. I don't want to sound like a bad person, but...
Yeah.
I mean, I have hours. I don't answer my phone all the time.
Yeah.
And
guilty of answering my
this
phone
goes
too
back
much.
to expectations, though. It's not that I'm not servicing my customers. I think you could poll pretty much any of them, and they'd be like, no, he's great. But they know. They know that I'm available from 8 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon, Monday through Friday. They know that I'm on call from 5 until 8, Monday through Friday. Meaning, probably not going to answer the phone, but if you see that you called and I have time, I'll get back to you. If I don't get back to you by 8 o'clock, I'm going to probably call you at 8 in the morning the next day.
Yeah.
And they're totally okay with that.
And that's that's a normal business.
Right.
Right?
You know?
You go to an attorney, you go to get your teeth work done, whatever. They have office hours.
Well, and I know
door opens and closes.
Maciek runs a team. I've had a small team myself. I'm not sure whether I like managing people or not. Besides myself, I'll figure that out eventually. But, you know, I have tons and tons of agents that have talked to me and asked me about how I've been able to be successful in a relatively short amount of time. And, you know, my answer is kind of the same way every time. First thing, my first year I started at Keller Williams, I barely sold anything. I think I sold like 6 houses, but I went to class every day. Every single day at a Keller Williams Market Center, they usually have some sort of training. That's all I did. I went to class. So, and I got to learn the prescribed methods for the best practices that are out there. And that was super helpful. I think a lot of agents get into this and just think they're going to make money right away. And some of them do because maybe they have their grandma's house lined up or something like that. But then they struggle. And the first thing I always ask is, well, what are your hours? I bet you've probably got a lot of funny responses from agents with that question.
Yeah, well, and sometimes the frustrating part is when there's a hot listing in a hot market and it gets launched on a Friday.
Right.
And they don't work weekends.
Right.
And
right.
you have no answers. You can't schedule it. You can't do anything.
Sure.
You know, and there's a lot of frustrating parts to the business. But I think the real reward that I get in this business is when my client falls in love with a house and gets it at the right price for them, at the right location, checking as many boxes as we can, and then at the end, you know, they say thank you.
Yeah.
They're,
oh no.
They're so happy about it, and that's really like awesome. And if I have to answer
Thanks,
my
Jason.
phone at thank you, Jason. If I have to answer my phone at 8 p.m. to help with that, because
Sure.
on weekends, you know how it goes on weekends, right? Open houses, bidding wars sometimes. We got to do what we got to do.
Well, and there's
But-
times. There's always times,
That's
right?
right.
I was working with a guy who was working the Asian stock markets, so we were on the phone till like 3 a.m. every night. That's just what it was, right? And we got him the house.
Yeah.
You know, it's just back to the agent part. We kind of got to wrap up here, but I do want to put this out there because I hope some agents see this, and maybe that's at least if I help one, we did a great job.
Yeah.
When I ask that question, what is your schedule? If you say to yourself, and you should just ask this to yourself, what is my schedule? Because if you ask me, I can tell it to you. I just told you. Most agents that I speak to, especially newer ones, are like, well, I mean, I wake up at like 6:30, which I think is probably an hour and a half earlier than when they actually get up.
Exactly.
and I go to bed at 11, so my hours are 6:30 to 11, and I'm like, huh?
No.
Like, when do
No.
you eat?
Exactly.
When do you go to the gym? When do you go to the beach? When do you
Family
hang out with
time.
your family? Like, when do you do anything? Well, I'm just, you know. So then they're just waiting for their phone to ring, and it's an interesting experience.
Yeah, and if you're thinking about becoming an agent, I will say, talk to maybe 20 seasoned agents first. Ask them about it. What is it like? What is the first 6 months like? Basically means no money. That's what it means, right? What is it like working and learning about insurance, about the lending process, about all the different types of borrowers you could be? What about condos? How are they different from single families? And really, what does it take to succeed? And what it does take is building relationships. That's really what it's about.
That's all it is.
That's all it is.
That is number one.
Some people cold call, some people door knock.
I gotta
some people
tell you,
just
man,
are friendly.
I mean, it took me 5 or 6 years to figure out this is about relationships, and I hope I'm making relationships with you. You can call me. I'm a real person. Call me. Go to my link tree and click a consultation for 30 minutes. It's very easy to get in touch with me, and so then we can start that relationship, because we can't have one if we never have a conversation, right?
That's right.
And you know, I'm a 2 ears, 1 mouth kind of guy. I like to listen to what people have, and then I'm going to ask you sometimes very canned questions. A lot of times they're from a script. They're from a Tom Ferry script that I memorized a long time ago.
Yeah.
But they're questions that are relevant to the sale. You know, the funniest thing that I have is when I meet somebody and they go, well, we've been looking for 2.5 years. And I go, what? and then you find out the person makes $200,000 a year, which is $100 an hour, I think. Is that right? On a 40-hour work week?
Yeah,
something like I have no idea, whatever it is. Maybe it's 50 an hour for 100. So no, 100 for 200 on a 40-hour work week. And I'm like, well, how much time have you spent in this 2.5 years? Oh, we're on the computer for 6 hours a day. She's blah, blah, blah. I'm like, let's add that up into hours. I'm like, man, you spent $200,000 in the last 2 years looking for this thing.
Interesting.
And I think because of the right questions and listening and having a conversation, it happens to me all the time. I sell somebody a house in a week and a half. Like, and my average showings is less than 3. For the last 3 years, I show less than 3 houses before we find a house that's the right house, that we're under contract, and we sell.
Yeah, and you know, and I get it. Sometimes people are living in dream world,
sure,
and then they need to get the reality world. But while they're doing that, reality goes here because prices increase,
right?
Which is what happened the last 2 years, right? People's dream fell from under their feet because they didn't take action. And then there's people who are, you know, like me. I'm a quick action taker. I decide, I do it, move on.
Right.
And then there's some people that are like, oh, let me sleep on it. Let me think about it. Let me go get quotes. They're like more research-based people that just take time and they're hesitant in making decisions. You know, I would rather, it sounds silly, but I'd rather pull the trigger first and then start aiming than aim for half a day.
Well, perfection kills profitability. I got that from a Mark Cuban book. It really stood out to me. I like Mark Cuban, he's fine. I'd probably hang out with him, but I don't like follow the guy. And there was one book that I read of his, and the biggest thing out of there that I took away from me was perfection kills profitability. When you mentioned the check boxes on this house, right? I'm a ninja. I went to ninja sales and I graduated that class. It was pretty cool.
Thank you for bringing me onto that. Actually, I listen to their podcast all the time.
So, and you know, they talk about the 85% home.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you guys, if you're looking for a house, unless budget is not an option, you are not going to get a perfect house. And even if it is not an option, you're still not going to get a perfect house.
Right.
There's going to be one door that doesn't open if this other door is open because there was 6 inches short on the lot. And I'm a really, I observe things, and I found that in my friend's house who built a $2.5 million house a few years ago that's probably worth like 6 now. Very good builder, but I found the one door that hit the door, and I pointed out, and he goes, yeah.
That's what it is.
But you know, we got to go.
Yeah.
However, something that you just said, talking about the dream, if the dream's going to be able to be a dream next week, next year, next 2 years, I'd really like to do this again. I'd like to make this a regular thing. Hopefully you all like this. And I think the next one that we're going to do, which maybe we'll schedule that and we'll make an event and let people know about it. I think next time we should be talking about the dream. I think that I know that we have different thoughts on the dream.
Well, how can people get a hold of you?
Realtor@brianwacnik.com. Type in Brian Wacnik, BrianWacnik. I'm very, very, very easy to find. I'm on like 1,000 websites, and they all have my phone number and my email. Text me, hit my link tree, schedule an appointment, whatever you want to do. I'm very easy. Perfect. What about you?
So I am Maciek Zaremba with Fathom Realty. Easiest way to get a hold of me is just call me. 941-888-SOLD. That's my number. It's easy. Do not text that number. It won't go anywhere. Also, go check out my YouTube channel, right? Because I do a lot of videos with different people, and also I like to educate people about not just the market, but really cool places, cool condos that we have. What are some pluses and some minuses? Where do you park on Siesta Key and Longboat Key?
The beach parking on Longboat, because I happen to have a friend that I could park over at her place, and that's how I go to the beach. However, I haven't gone out and looked at these different access points. So I'm going to go watch your videos, and then I'm going to make my own that are exactly the same, but with me. And then we can compare views.
All right, perfect. Thanks,
man.
so much.
Yeah, whatever.
Thanks for watching,
Thanks,
everyone.
guys.